The whole counter filled with various kinds of biscuit-type delicacies. These are my favorite. Very heavy, mixture of all kinds of little things. Many things I have no clue what they are. Cookies and crackers and all kinds of, maybe, I don't know what those are. Oh, potato chips and all kinds of junk food stuff. Those look like French fries, maybe they are. Meat section all back there, and the noise you have here is ladies like this, you know, all of them that have something to sell. They have microphones and they blast it out, try to get competition over each other and get stuff. Huge meat section, cheese section, fish section, everything you could want. Vegetables, fruits, and so forth are relatively limited. A lot of eggs. And when you get stuff, you take it over here, and then those people there weigh it and put a label on it. There's the fruit and so forth here. I have no idea what this pastry is. You would like to think when you look at it that it's chocolate, but it's not. This is a view of that park at the end of the lake I'm on in the early morning of a very crisp, well, by the last 2 week standards, Beijing morning. Very pretty. It's a Sunday morning. These are where sunflower seeds come from. See, right there.
Oh,
I see. I understand. Yeah. I take it with me. Okay, I got off right dead center in the picture at Chongwen metro station, and I orientated myself correctly. I got off in the northeast exit, or side of the intersection, if you will, so upper right hand corner. But I was confused, no surprise, the road's extremely confusing, and ended up taking that diagonal that goes up to the Beijing train station. And it wasn't until I got up to the ends of the word Xi that I and a guide, believe it or not, tour guide, but going to Beijing, I was not familiar with the area, he was trying to help me, discovered that there was where the train station was. Then I knew I had the wrong road. I had to be down behind the train station. Once I'd found it, I already knew that. So I've walked back down. I'm now at where it says C in Chongmen in the green. Both DK and Lonely Planet together make this, finding this part confusing. One calls it one thing, one calls it another, in an attempt to differentiate themselves and add confusion to the tourist. Both guides are good at doing that, really. So on this site, as we begin, used to be the Chongwen Gate, built in 1430. It became primarily, up until I think 1690, was the primary tax collection, commercial tax collection gate office for the entire Beijing area. It's been torn down quite some time ago. What we're looking at is the last remains of the original gate that original wall that ringed the original Beijing. This slim part that you see in green here before you now, and we'll be going to the right, is that remains. So I'll slowly pan and read from the brief introduction interpretive sign. This was built in 1419, 17th year of the Yongle period, Emperor Yongle. This current 1.5 kilometer city wall is only part left of the Beijing inner city wall from the Ming Dynasty. The southeastern corner tower that we're going to, built in 1436, is the largest of its kind in existence in China, and that's where the observatory is, which was moved up here from Nanking, or Nanjing I think it was, when I think it was the Mongols, when the Manchu, I think that was Kanji, moved the national capital up to Beijing. Certainly not the first wall we've seen, but with regard to Beijing, an extremely critical historical artifact for Beijing. It's interesting looking at this tower, how it was designed, constructed, it looks like from a center axis for some reason. This park is a lovely place to start the day because, like so many parks in the world, it's designed for casual comfortable, relaxed strolling. It's interesting to look at walls like this or any other artifact and wonder when and why are certain parts of it missing. Did they just naturally deteriorate away? Look at the series of potholes directly in the center. Almost look like it had some kind of human conscious effort behind it rather than just random weathering. I always wonder. And I often wonder if in the future we will develop some fantastical technology that will allow us to suck out of the artifacts of history the actual history. In other words, as though they contain the vibrations of all of history that could be interpreted. No more fanciful than DNA would have sounded in a science fiction story 100 years ago. A tree with some very pretty flowers on them, or fruit, or whatever. And again, I think the word is piquant, that Chinese preserve and revere even the dead trees as they would their own ancestors. Oftentimes when I'm approaching someone, I'll say, "Ni hao," and they'll look up and go, with a little bit of surprise, and they'll go, "Ni hao." They'll laugh, they'll chuckle at the end like, what a surprise this is. This interpretive site repeats the other one in text, but this picture may give us a little more insight into what the wall might have looked like. There, 4 pieces of steel protrude from the wall, suggesting something once was displayed or hung there. Here, a section of the wall eroded back in so we can see it, and made a little bit prettier by those lavender flowers. Lonely Planet suggests there's a way to get up on top and walk, and I'll see if that's possible. And there's also someone who lives in one of the towers and maintains the wall. This seemed interesting only because it counterpoints 3 different periods of history of the wall, something intermediate and something modern in that skyscraper. Again, just a long distance pan so that you can appreciate the tranquility of this park in the midst of downtown Beijing. Here, a flautist. I was listening to the book on tape Cleopatra last night, where it was commented that in staid, droll Rome compared to Cleopatra's Alexander, a piper was considered to be of low caste, and the greater the piper, the better the piper, the lower the caste. It was Cicero's cynical attitude, as reflected in Rome, of anything that reflected artistic beauty like this, which is an irony considering their sculpture and tile work reflected exactly that. And like an old decrepit person, as you lose attributes, limbs begin to die, various repairs are taking place and effected for the protection and the sustenance of at least what remaining life exists for this tree. Those are patches, kind of like titanium knees. And here several older folks have just sat themselves down to enjoy the music. Another walking pan as I continue along this 1-mile jaunt. And here we're approaching an area of morning exercise as they kick the birdie about. This is particularly pretty because of the what look like bulrushes along this wall, plus a large chunk of the wall for some reason has eroded out here. It almost looks like it was intentionally gutted. It looks like a way to scramble to the top, but I'm not going to be the fool that desecrates this peaceful environment by trying that, not to mention my failure would be very ignominious. And while the piped in music plays over this bed of red roses. That lady there just a few moments ago was practicing her line dancing as she walked along.